Hey guys, welcome to the video on Chapter 11, Lesson 1. So, before I start today guys, I have a question for you, and this is what's called an essential question. It's something that scientists have asked in the past. They try to it's how we discovered this information. So, you've learned about genetics, and you've learned about how Mendel works, but there's a question coming in there. Why do you look the way that you do? It's a question that you'll hopefully be able to at least answer by the end of this entire chapter. And I want you guys to go ahead and take what you know so far about genetics. I want you guys to pause the video and attempt to answer this question in your student journal. Just do 2 or 3 sentences and that's it. Okay, thank you for pausing the video and trying out this question. Let's go on to the actual lesson. So I have 4 goals for you guys today. I have 1, student can distinguish between the various patterns of complex inheritance. 2, student can analyze offspring data to determine sex linkage. And 3, student can predict what would happen if you add more than one allele to a trait. If you don't want to watch the video, you can read over chapter 11.2. It's covered in the same area. So, first off, guys, the first idea in Mendel, you've probably noticed that not everything looks like it follows either this or that. You see it's going to be a classic Mendel trait. So, one of the types of traits we can get that's different from what you guys have been learning is called incomplete dominance. This is when you have a mixture of 2 traits. Now, this only happens in heterozygotes, and the classic example is with the snapdragon. It's a type of flower, if you couldn't tell. If I take a red snapdragon and make it have a baby with a white snapdragon, then what happens is that the heterozygotes right here, they end up being pink. So if I make my Punnett square for it, I end up getting 2 of my possibilities will be pink snapdragons. So sometimes the trait isn't totally 100% either this or that. It's a blending of the 2 traits. So this is one rule that you haven't quite seen yet in genetics, and it means that even though you have heterozygotes, what it means is that not one is dominant over the other. There's some incompleteness going around. In this case, obviously not enough red is being made by this big R gene right here, so you get something halfway between red and white, which is pink. The next one is called codominance. Now, for those of you guys who had sickle cell disease, a lot of you guys already figured this one out. Codominance is when both traits are expressed. Now, this only happens in heterozygotes as well. And what it means is that, well, some of your cells will look like sickle cells, like right here, and some of them will be normal cells. So you'll have a combination of both traits. So codominance just means that both traits do show up in some way, and that you essentially get a combination of half and half with that trait. So here's a quick little practice question. I want you to pause the video and attempt to answer it. Is a scientist discovers a trait in humans that goes, it seems when a heterozygote appears to be blending both traits. What type of inheritance pattern is this? Okay, so hopefully you pause the video and attempted to answer it. The answer is incomplete dominance, because we have a situation where the heterozygotes have a blending of both traits, which means they've combined both traits together. Now, if I had said that they're showing both traits, then it would have been codominance. So if both traits are appearing, it's codominance. If it's a blending of both traits, it's incomplete dominance. And that's just what I said right there. Hopefully helped with the PowerPoint. Okay, the next type of pattern you can get in genetics is called multiple alleles. This is when 2 or more types of alleles will control for a trait. Blood type is a really good example of this. So there are 3 alleles you can get with blood type. There's an A allele, a B allele, and an O allele. If you get 2 A alleles, well, you have type A blood. If you get an A allele and a B allele, then you're going to have type AB blood. If you have an A allele and an O allele, you'll have just type A blood. And you can kind of see how this goes through. Now, if you're curious, I happen to be type O blood, so I would fall in this category, which means I have both of these genes right here. But my mom is type A. So that means my mom has to be This type right here, A has the A allele plus an O allele, because if she didn't have that, there's no way I could be um, OO. The next type of inheritance is called epistasis. Epistasis is when one allele is dependent upon another. So here's an example. The what we call the E allele in dogs determines if you have color in your fur. So these two guys here, they don't have the big E allele. This has small allele, so their fur is white. However, the B allele determines how much color you have. So essentially, what happens is that if you have one of the big E's, that means you will have color in your fur coat if you're a dog. If you with the B allele though, it determines how dark your coat is going to be. If you have both little b's, then you are going to be, a brown dog like this. If you have a big B though, that means you're going to have big B here. Now, if you notice here, this dog even has a big B, but he has a white skin. That white skin, white fur, even though he has the big B allele, is because he does not have the big E allele to give him the ability to give him, pigment in his fur. So that's epistasis. So basically, one allele depends upon another allele. Okay, this is one students kind of found out as they were going through the fruit fly lab. A couple of you guys found this one by accident. It's called sex determination. Now, as you guys maybe be aware of, is that guys have a Y chromosome and girls have two X chromosomes. So if you are XX, you are female. If you're XY, you are male. So the chromosomes that you get, basically these are your chromosomes. They come in here. So your gender, your male or femaleness, is dependent upon what chromosomes you are going to have. And as you see here, it's another thing. If you are XX, you are female. If you are XY, you are male. Now, the other chromosomes, the ones that don't determine your sex, are called the autosomes. So if you ever see this key term right here, autosomes, all we're saying is that you are a chromosome that does not determine sex. So your other 22 chromosomes in your body are all autosomes. But in your case, since you're all XY, he goes, this XY combination right here would be your sex chromosomes, but the other 22 would be considered autosomes. Now, this actually is really interesting because what it means is that you can potentially have a different chromosome than somebody else. So the females have two X's and males have an X and a Y. So there's a difference here. And that difference leads to something we call sex-linked traits. And sex-linked traits are interesting because what it means is that some traits are on the X chromosome and some traits are on the Y chromosome. So if we look at color blindness, now color blindness means you can't see some colors like red. Now it's very common in guys, but not very common in girls. And here's why. Girls, if we have a mother right here, this mother has a big B allele. Now the big B means that she's going to be normal. And she has the little B allele and on the X chromosome. And that means she's going to be color blindness to red and green. Now the Y chromosome doesn't have an allele for this. So there's no color blindness or normal gene on the Y. So technically the Y is almost a freebie. It means it doesn't actually have any skin to play in the game. So if you look at what happens here, well, let's see what happens. You have the XX. Well, this is going to be a girl then. And it'll be a girl with two normal alleles with no color blindness. Now, we have XX down here as well, but we have a big B and a little b. Now what that means is that this woman has, she has one normal gene and she has one color blindness gene, which means she is a heterozygote for this particular trait. So how this operates then is that she would not be colorblind because of this. She would have the big B here working over the little b right here and she'd be okay. Now, the guy, on the other hand, though, see what happens. The guy, he gets an X chromosome from his wife, from his mother, and he gets a Y chromosome from his dad. Well, here he's normal. He has the normal chromosome, so he will not be colorblind. However, in this situation right here, where we have x little b, what ends up happening is that there's only one little b right here, and that one little b is not overridden by any other allele, and he gets color blindness instead. And that's how a sex-linked trait works. And that's why guys tend to get these diseases more than girls do, is because if you have a bad allele that's going to cause you to become colorblind or something, in a girl, well, you have a possibility of another allele to come in and save you. But in a guy, you're screwed. You don't have the Y chromosome doesn't have this gene here to help you out. So you're basically going to be done. Okay, so hopefully to test your guys' comprehension. So why is color blindness more common in men? So I want you guys to answer this question in your Cornell notes. It'll show that you did a good job watching the video. And the answer comes down to is that because men only have one X chromosome and the allele for it is on the X chromosome. So as you see, the previous Punnett square is a good example. Okay, I have one more thing to cover, guys, and I'm done. Basically, guys, some traits are called polygenic. Now, a polygenic trait means there are multiple alleles working together to create that trait. Now, here's what that means. Now, you guys may have noticed that skin color comes in a lot of types. You have people who are very dark skinned, people who are very white skinned, people who are in between. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how does the alleles work on that? Because normally alleles are either one or the other. Well, you'll find out that most traits in the human body and most animals are polygenic. What that means is there's lots of alleles that work together that give you that trait, in this case, skin color. So for example, if you are all recessive, so skin color is controlled by 3 different alleles, A, B, and C. If you are recessive for all of these, well, you have really white skin. Now, if you have some combination of dominant alleles, though, your skin will be a little bit darker. And as you can see, you add some more dominant alleles in here, your skin gets darker and darker and darker until you get to the point of where you have all dominant alleles, and basically you have very dark skin. So your skin color is determined by a lot of different alleles that work together, and that's a polygenic trait. So Mr. Russell, as being very, very, very white, not really white, but white, I'm probably somewhere in this region right here. But you guys have darker skin than I do, so you probably would end up being in this category right around here. And someone from Africa would probably be somewhere around here. And you can see how you get a lot of different combinations when you have a lot of different alleles affecting things. Okay, so now that you've learned this lesson, guys, I want you guys to go back and attempt to answer the question again. Why do you look the way you do? And I want you guys to answer this question in your Cornell notes. And there's no one right answer to this question. So there's no right answer, but there are good answers. So I want you guys to take a crack at that question and put it in your Cornell notes. And here are your key terms for your Cornell notes, guys. And thank you for paying attention and have an excellent day.